So with that backdrop being said, can you use virtual offices? Can you use Regis in these places? Yes. Technically now you can if you do it the right way. But before I would spend my money on that and think that it's going to work for SEO, exposure and ranking and visibility, you should look at that address, really zoom in on Google Maps or even go there and see if there's like businesses doing what you're doing there. Welcome back to Local SEO Tactics, where we bring you tips and tricks to get found online. I'm your host, Jesse Dolan. This episode joined by Mr. Bob Brennan. How you doing, Bob?
Howdy.
And Sue Ginsburg.
Hi.
How you doing today, Sue?
Doing great, thanks.
And what topic, Sue, I know you got one lined up for us here. What are we going to talk about today? What kind of problems are we going to solve out there in the digital marketing space?
Yes, today the question comes to us from both listeners and clients and potential clients. It's a question that we commonly get, and that is, what do you use for an address when you work from a co-working space like WeWork or Regis, and there may be many different businesses at that address? Google views it as a PO box and won't put up your GBP. Related to this, can you have an individual GBP at the same address as another GBP, like law firms or doctors' offices or clinics that may be in a building with a lot of other tenants?
Sure.
And it could be the same kind of practice, the same kind of doctor, or a different kind. Really good question, and it is one that I hear commonly and that comes into us. So that's what we'll be exploring today. The quote for the day today is, "Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving." Anybody want to guess who that quote's from? One of our country's highest geniuses, other than you, Bob.
George Washington.
Close. Albert Einstein, who is known to have one of the highest IQs known to mankind. How do you like that?
Wow.
So just a little background on this question. I recently attended a small law firm conference with a friend and client and met a whole meeting full of thousands of smart business owner lawyers who were hungry to learn the infrastructure and marketing to put in place to grow their practices. Amazing group of people, and the topic of COVID impact, are we still in COVID, hybrid, and all this came up frequently. And speaking with many of them, whether they were working from a new office, the same office in their office building, or in a Regis type workspace, I got this question a lot. And they were finding challenges switching their address or keeping the address and having it get some traction as we continued on in whatever phase of COVID we're in. And their flexibility of letting their people and themselves work from anywhere continued. As we all know, from the beginning of COVID, it's been a game changer for remote work, and those who like it want to keep doing it, and they're highly aware of the impact that this address issue has on their online presence. In episode 123, we talk about hiding your address on your GBP if you're working from home, and now a slight twist on that. What do you do if you're working from a co-working space like WeWork or Regis, or if you have part-time office space, or you're in a big building sharing it with other people that are in the same line of business as you? So for people in the know about the importance of Google ranks and searches like you two are, what can you say to help us all be smarter about this and choose our workspace and our address and our suite number or anything else accordingly? What do you think?
I think I can provide a little context and history for this too, because this is definitely a thing Google has changed their opinion on, right? If this is allowable, and specifically when we're talking about, back in the day, GMBs, Google My Business, now Google Business Profile, GBPs. Bob, we used to have a lot of different virtual offices, mailboxes, PO boxes. There's a lot of things you could do to set up a new business, expand your footprint, set up new GMBs, GBPs. Now, whether that was because you were legitimately working remote or just wanted to pop a GMB in a different part of town to get, traction and ranking, because of maybe, gray hat or black hat type marketers that maybe abused that, Google closed that loophole and really caught on to if it's a virtual office, a mailbox sharing deal, right, or a PO box. They really put the clamp down and would not allow you to have a business listing, a Google business listing, Google business profile at those addresses because it was abused. And they literally changed, their guidelines and what they allow. But during COVID and with the giant flux of people either working remotely or needing temporary spaces or whatever, they did relax those rules, but made it where you still had to show, because at these virtual offices like a Regis, you can pay to just have your mail be delivered there, right? And then maybe you get access to their conference room once in a while, and that's super cheap. But you're not really officing out of there, right? So when you use that address, the way Google's looking at it is like, it's a mail stop. You're not there. Clients can't come there, or you don't operate out of there. So now you kind of need to fall in the category of you're renting an office at these co-working spaces, right? You're not just renting a open chair, right? Or a beanbag or whatever. You have to have an actual office, a suite number, a place where you can receive calls and do business. And Google should let you use that kind of an address to set up a GPP. That doesn't mean I would recommend it or it's safe to do or effective, okay? Because something that's still a huge factor, and you kind of mentioned it, Sue, is other businesses that do what you do at that same address. There is definitely something, proximity or address filtering or even business name filtering that Google will do in the map pack. If we do a search in Google for virtually anything, that's going to trigger the map pack, right? So any of you listening, watching, whatever, pick some local product or service that you usually get, and near me or name your city, whatever, do a search. And you're probably going to find that those 3 listings that Google shows in the map pack are going to give you some kind of a triangle that spreads a little bit of geographic area, right? Depending on your service and how dense the competition is, that could be hundreds of yards, could be tens of miles. But the thing is usually those are the top 3 that Google's showing you. If you were to zoom in on any one of those dots that are making that triangle on the map, you're going to find a lot of other businesses that are in the same business category or profession within that space or even closer to one of those dots. And what Google's doing on purpose is there's definitely a layer of which ones are more authoritative and more trusted based on a lot of signals. But if 2 of them are right next to each other and pretty equal, Google's usually going to show one of them and provide you a larger geographic area, right? So kind of a little hidden thing is not only do you want to be running an awesome business and be optimized to show up in your GMB, GBP, and everything else, but you also want to be the only business doing what you do at that address, so you don't get filtered out, right? Google's going to usually show one business at that address on the initial 3-pack, right? If you scroll down through the results, you're going to find a lot of businesses at that address, right? But only one of them is going to make it in the top 3. So with that backdrop being said, can you use virtual offices? Can you use Regis in these places? Yes. Technically now you can if you do it the right way. But before I would spend my money on that and think that it's going to work for SEO exposure and ranking and visibility, you should look at that address, really zoom in on Google Maps or even go there and see if there's like businesses doing what you're doing there. And then it's kind of a decision, right? Do you have another option? Can you go somewhere else? Maybe, you might need this for your business, period, right? If this is not an SEO decision, which of course, this is what we're doing. This is our episode here for this topic on local SEO tactics. So this is an SEO driven conversation, right? That's where it's slanted to. And I should temper it, meaning that only one business will be shown at that address typically for filtering in the map pack. It doesn't mean you can't be that one business, right? But what it definitely means is you're going to have a hard row to hoe. You're going to have to do a lot of work for your content, for your brand, getting reviews. Because I think usually, Sue, this question you're bringing up is when people are starting a business, right? Or getting a new location. So the context for me in this conversation with everybody is usually I'm going to, can I, will it work? And so you're kind of starting with something. You haven't worked at this co-working space for 5 years and you're looking to invest in SEO, right? That's just kind of not the headspace. So doing some of these things as soon as you can, as much as you can, the reviews, the optimization on your GBPs, advancing beyond everybody else. And then, of course, last but not least, a ton of work on your website. It's got to be critical of this. This is an address-driven, GBP-driven, Google My Business-driven question, but your website comes into play for that ranking. And if you're definitely faced with a couple things that make this an uphill battle, like the proximity and address filtering with like businesses, and the fact that you're in a remote or virtual office environment to begin with, makes this a little more challenging for you. So you better be hitting it on all cylinders. Yeah, I guess that's my general overall take, but then this isn't anything I've tested or Bob tested or we have firsthand experience. This is more from the SEO industry overall. A rule of thumb people say, if you have to do this, is take the address of your virtual office you're looking to use, plug it into Google, and see if it returns search results, literally calling it a virtual office, right? If it's Regis or Bob's, office.com or whatever it is, if it's being marketed as a virtual address, the likelihood of Google knowing this is a virtual address is very high. And that may be a disadvantage to you. But instead, if Bob at bobsoffice.com, which is not a real thing, everybody, but I guess it could be maybe. If Bob is not marketing it as virtual office, co-working space, whatever, overtly, but does allow it, then it's a little bit more of a hidden thing. And Google may not realize, that it's a virtual office, co-working space. And thus you won't get discredited for that a little bit. And that would be to your advantage. So if you have the ability to look at multiple virtual offices or options like this in your geographic area, try to find the most covert, stealthy one and choose that if possible. Otherwise, let's kind of pick your poison, which uphill battle you want to face with going this route. Best route is always get your own unique address somewhere and use your house if you have to, right? And hide your address. Or show it, either way. Does that give you guys, do I need to dive anywhere else, or do you guys have any questions on that? I kind of presented a full circle on that topic in general, but what do you guys think? Does that help what everybody's looking for, you think? Or
I think it does now. What comes?
Yeah, I mean, one other thought. Go ahead, Sue. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, what comes to mind is when you're thinking about these dense downtown high-rise buildings, how does Google view that? Is it Regis being a collective workspace, whatever you call them, versus a high-rise building that has 42 floors and it might be a little harder, or are those the same things in Google's eyes?
Same thing there,
wow.
Sue. Same thing there from an SEO perspective.
Wow.
If I'm a law firm or an accountant, whatever, and I want to be downtown, if I can choose, I don't want one of my competitors being in that same high rise. I want to move down the block a little bit because it doesn't matter if the thing I'm talking about from the filtering, proximity, name, address type stuff, that's not unique to being a virtual office. That's at that address, right? It could be a legitimate business park somewhere or a high rise, like you're saying, but that dense businesses, you definitely want to be away from your competitors. And I mean, like literally digital competitors too, right? Even if they're similar business, but different, if they're showing up for your keywords at that address, I would want to be away from them. Definitely a different scale of conversation if I'm a, tenant in a high rise versus a virtual office somewhere. Super interesting. Same concept applies there though for distancing. So,
wow.
What were you going to add, Bob?
Yeah, maybe this is gray hat and goes against grain, but I mean, if you have a friend who's a realtor and has literally his or her own realtor office, and you're something that, I don't know, let's say an auctioneer or something, where nobody's going to really come to your office. I mean, in theory, you could set up a Google in if your buddy's okay with it in their office. I mean, that's an extreme situation. It does not play nice with Google's rules, but business is never cut and dry, right? So
that can be okay with Google's rules, Bob. I would say literally between you and your buddy, if you just on the back of a napkin, a sublease, right? Something like, if you just need to make it official somehow that, this is going to be my address, and you use that to set up your GBP, go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. I would do that in a heartbeat over a virtual office. So.
Yeah. Because there's a ton of businesses out there, formal or informal, that offer, when you think about it, pretty different services. And in some cases it's legit. Tires Plus is an example. Not Tires Plus, I'm sorry, Batteries Plus, where they sell batteries, but then they repair cell phones. And there's no real connection there. So, again, they're setting up another entity within Batteries Plus that, provides that service. So,
and literally to your point, we've worked with clients in the space. We know, and we've seen it firsthand. They will have a listing for the Batteries Plus, and then they will have a listing for the phone repair entity that's part of their company, but somewhat separated at the same address. Doing exactly what you're talking. 2 GBPs at the same address, different company, but different like brands and entities, and most importantly, like different business categories and services within GBP, right? So they are not conflicting or cannibalizing at all.
Yeah, and I'm not saying it's again, at the end of the day, you got to put your head on the pillow, but ultimately, you can find a way to get yourself spread throughout a major market in that manner. Might just work. So.
Hey everyone, just a quick message about our free SEO audit tool on localseotactics.com, and we'll get right back to the show. If you haven't taken advantage of it yet, go on out to localseotactics.com/free SEO audit, or look for the yellow button up in the top right corner, click that. And it's going to take just a couple seconds. You enter in the page that you want to optimize, what you're looking for the audit to score against. Enter in that page, enter in the keyword you're looking to get optimized for, and enter in your email address, click the button, and it's going to take a few seconds, and then it's going to send you off a PDF report via email. It's a great report. It's going to kind of give you an overall score of some vital SEO areas for that page and for your website at large, even though it's auditing this page. That's going to tell you some of the good things that are happening, some of the bad things that are happening too, and give you basically a checklist of some things that you need to shore up and what you can do to improve your SEO for that page, for that keyword that you're auditing. Now you can use this as many times as you want. You can do multiple keywords, multiple pages, multiple keywords on the same page. You can even use this to check against your competitors, right? If you want to do a little reverse engineering, see how they're scoring for a certain keyword, what they may be doing good that you're not, and some things to improve there. So lots of different ways to use it, completely free. Again, go on to localseotactics.com/free SEO audit, or look for the yellow button in the top right corner of the website. I was just going to say, if you got a buddy, I forget your example, Bob, but if your buddy's an accountant, whatever, you're going to throw 150, 200, 300 bucks, whatever it is at Regis or WeWork or whatever. Hey, if your buddy will let you, rent space there, use the address and things like that, maybe even use this conference room if you ever need a meeting place, throw your buddy $100 a month. You know what I mean? Like put it in your friend's pocket. You're getting a great value, better value than your co-working space anyways. And as long as it's all legal and copacetic and the landlord knows what's going on, do it the right way, and that's a win-win for everybody. So
yeah, and I can't say that it's a good idea if you're a person that cuts hair and you're trying to pull something like that off, and
it's got to be a good fit.
Your buddy's a realtor, and you've got all these people showing up like, "Hey, I'm here to get my hair cut." Yeah, my buddy's van's out back, just go sit in it or whatever. Yeah, but you get to it's gotta kind of work in that people don't really report to that office, but they do call it. And they don't necessarily expect, as an auctioneer, they expect you to come out to their place and do their deal. You get the idea. So what were you going to say, Sue?
I was going to ask, in any of those situations whether it's a high rise or it's a co-working space, does it help if you always include your suite number or your office number in the address? Does that help at all?
100%. Yeah, definitely it does. Definitely it does. That doesn't mean Google always kind of gives it credit, or again, there's a lot of factors they'll decide again if they're going to show you and your prominence and all that. But be explicit and specific for sure. And I'll go back, piggybacking off what you said, Bob, too. I got my notes here for some of the bullet points. This is similar, but piggybacking off what you said here. the point here is before using a co-working space, consider contacting other businesses with an ideal address about subleasing from them. So your point of like, if you got a buddy, hey, that's cool, super easy. But if you may be a little more invested, a little more strategic, and again, if you do a Google search, if you're a little more advanced in your planning here, do some searches for the products and services, find the map pack, find that polygon, that triangle, right, of where they're showing. And I guess one of the key things here too, everybody's got to keep in mind, this overrides all of this. Let's talk Minneapolis, Minnesota for a specific city. If you want to be found for searches in Minneapolis with your GBP, especially if you're launching one, if you don't have all this prominence and authority in history, you have to be inside of Minneapolis for that address.
Yeah.
Do a Google search for Minneapolis, Minnesota. Look at the map. Google's going to show you what it considers Minneapolis to be. Your address needs to be in there, whether it's the WeWork space, the Regis space, your accounting buddy, or a business you don't know of, but you're going to contact them and ask for a sublease because they happen to be in the right spot. Make sure you're in the city you're attacking. It's not going to work otherwise. So yeah, if you find an ideal address, maybe it's a business park, or Sue, it's a high rise. Depends how cold calling friendly you are, but start knocking on doors, see who's available, and we'll negotiate a sublease. If that's your best address and it's going to work wonders for you, consider that too over a co-working space. And Sue, the last thing I wanted to mention with the co-working remote virtual office, setup is, even if it does work, again, understand that it used to work. Google kind of put the kibosh to it. They allowed it again because of COVID. Guarantee that they're going to allow it going forward in the future, or maybe change the rules again. That's a bit of a question mark and an unknown. And for me, that lack of confidence would be, hopefully you're not spending a lot of money to do it, right? Because it could kind of go away, or you could suddenly lose ranking and get demoted if they decided to tweak it later and not want the exposure in these things. I'd much rather myself go for Bob's version, finding a business with an ideal address, or again, going back to your home. The problem there is if your home's not in Minneapolis, you want to rank in Minneapolis, then that's what you're looking for, is a location in Minneapolis, right? But I think those options are for sure the safest. So,
well, and while some of the things you're saying may sound far-fetching, you're reminding me of a very smart client that we had that was looking to add another location and ran some addresses by you to say which of these is the better one based on all of the things we're talking about. So it is real.
That might be that awesome expanding client we had on for an interview recently that has a business that's just exploding and expanding. So, no, absolutely great point. Great point.
It's real. It's real, right? So, and anything else from either one here?
I got to ask you guys a question. Bob, you mentioned, I even subtly threw out their gray hat and black hat earlier. You mentioned gray hat again. But nobody's mentioning the fact that I'm literally wearing a baseball hat on an episode here. Usually we're showing our hairdos, and this says Intrix on it. And it's a gray hat for a reason, right? If we're being kitschy and really getting meta with our marketing, we do SEO. It's not white hat. At the very least, it's gray hat, if not black hat. We've talked about that before. So at the end of the show, we usually pitch this, but I can't take it anymore because nobody's talking about my hat. So I got to tell everybody, we always say, if you want to call in a question, if you got a question we want to talk about on the show, we're going to send you a free t-shirt. We have hats to add to the bribery pile now. Whoa. So, yep. We'll give you the option. There's nothing online yet or official. This is like a pre-launch, I guess, here. But if you do want to submit a question, go to localseotactics.com. Go down to the bottom, click the button for submit a question. As always, you can type it in, but if you want to call it in, even if we don't have it online, Trust will ask you if you want a baseball cap or a trucker hat. I guess we should say, so you're right, we were joking about that. It's a trucker hat style or a t-shirt. Take your pick, and hopefully more merch to come down the road. So
I got a question.
Not in the right spot, but
are any of your kids wearing the merch yet, or what?
They've been presented the option to have a hat. So far, my family they're collecting the hat. I think they're preserving it, right? Like,
yeah. No, I got one kid who's wearing it, so it's a little strange, but it'll work.
Well, and
I've been wearing them all over the place for Zoom meetings.
Thanks to us getting these hats, I was able to get schooled by Jesse on what is a trucker hat and what is a dad hat, which previously unknown to me.
Dad hat. It's a good point, Sue. I am wearing the trucker hat, the snapback mesh back trucker hat. Totally free, by the way. We're not selling these, even though it sounds like it. But yeah, the dad hat is the all cloth, right, with the buckle in the back. Everybody listening, you'll whet your appetite. LocalSEOtactics.com soon. We'll have glamorous pictures of both options for you.
Right.
So,
and please, for my
the things you know.
That's right. For my own edification, if there's anybody else out there who didn't know the difference between a dad hat and a trucker's hat, please let me know so I don't have to sulk about this topic, okay?
Yeah, I didn't know what it was till TJ and our team requested if we could get a dad hat style hat.
Okay.
What is that? Yeah, and then you go to the Google machine, right? And you do some reverse SEO and trying to figure out what the heck TJ was talking about. So Sue,
okay.
I threw that in there at the wrong spot of our format. I'll throw it back to you for kind of wrapping up the episode, and then I won't mention submit a question at the end. So.
Okay. Well, thank you for those answers. Very helpful, informative, and may make some people's lives a little more challenging, but the facts are what the facts are. And I say, if you remember one thing and one thing only, remember this: Google's guidelines have changed and are changing and will continue to change as the remote workplace continues to evolve. Ideally, you want to be the only business with your address doing what you do. And keep this in mind when choosing your office location as much as possible. It's a lot easier to make this happen intentionally when you're looking for office space than when you realize you're not the only business in your building doing this, and why is everybody always going to the other one? So, quote of the day again: life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Albert Einstein, Bob Brennan, and Jesse Dolan, 3 of the highest IQs known to mankind. How's that?
The statements reflected in this episode do not. What's the disclaimer?
Right.
Don't believe everything Sue said at the end there.
Confirm any of this. Ask my wife.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Right.
Feel free to fact check.
Oh, that's good, Sue. Thank you, Sue. That's our new Twitter bio is right there. Is going to be one of the top 3 smartest people.
Right.
Bob, any other closing thoughts on this episode?
No, I think it was a great topic. It's just one more factor when you're running your business you got to think about. And it used to be location. In a sense, it still is. You got to think about it also for the world of Google. So.
Yep, that's a great way to frame it up, man.
Yeah.
All right, Sue, thanks for the good topic. Bob, good insight. Everybody listening, hopefully that helps you out if you've been thinking about these things yourself, or, if nothing else, put that in the inventory for later for decisions. And, continue to progress. Catch y'all on the next episode.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Everyone.